Bodybuilding advances through its rivalries. However, some rivalries are so stark that we're sure the two competitors involved surely hate each other to this day. Let's watch. Number 5. Sergio Oliva versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. The 1960s were all about Sergio Oliva and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The two men first competed for the Mr. Olympia title starting in 1969. Arnold was the new prospect, the man Joe Weider had tipped to lead the sport. Oliva was the myth, earning a reputation for his freakish size and muscularity. Oliva won the Mr. Olympia title in 1967 and 1968. Going into the 1969 contest, the entire sport was ablaze with the news that Schwarzenegger would be challenging the myth. It was his first Olympia, and in his mind, it was over before the two even stepped on stage. In his memoir, Arnold remarks that he was overwhelmed by Oliva's presence. Backstage, Oliva pumped up in a large butcher's coat to hide his muscularity. Right before the contest, he stripped to unshroud his physique and in doing so, overwhelmed Schwarzenegger. In their head-to-head, Oliva bested the Austrian oak in points 4-3. This marked the only Olympia defeat Schwarzenegger would suffer in his professional career. Arnold returned bigger and leaner the following year and took Sergio's Olympia crown. 1970 was the beginning of Arnold's 6 consecutive Olympia titles. He won again in 1980. As Arnold soared, Oliva struggled to compete against him. On several occasions, Oliva claimed that the Olympia judges were against him, that they favored Arnold over him, and that he was unfairly treated. While this may be true, Oliva was disqualified before the 1971 contest for appearing at an event conducted by a competing federation to the IFBB. It didn't matter to the fans. Their rivalry was pure magic for the sport. It was the first mainstream clash at the Olympia contest and helped drive both men to better results in their careers. Oliva eventually left the Olympia and the IFBB as a whole to compete in Dan Lurie's World Bodybuilding Guild. Arnold went on to dominate the sport like no other in his era. Number 4. Frank Zane versus Franco Columbu. Following Schwarzenegger's departure from competition in 1975, a new rivalry emerged between Arnold's lifelong friend Franco Columbu and physique icon Frank Zane. Zane and Columbu first met at the 1969 Mr. World contest, where Zane was chosen over his Italian counterpart. Thus set in motion a fierce rivalry which spanned Mr. Universe contests, Mr. World contests, and, of course, the Mr. Olympia show. The two first came to a head at the Olympia in 1974, where Columbu finished ahead of Zane to win the under 200 pounds category. In 1975, Columbu won again, whereas Zane finished in 4th. Bodybuilding aficionados know that the 1975 Olympia was the contest featured in the seminal documentary film Pumping Iron. Zane was originally involved in the project, but disillusioned with the attention given to Schwarzenegger, withdrew from the production and decided to train away from Gold's Gym. Zane showed up smoother on stage than in 1974 and fell well behind his rivals. So disappointed was Zane in his conditioning and resulting placement that he even considered retiring from the sport. Instead, he decided to return the following year and in his best ever condition. 1976 was the pinnacle of Zane's years-long battle against the Italian. Schwarzenegger's retirement had opened up a lane for a new champion in the sport. Frank and Franco were nearly indistinguishable from one another when they stepped on stage at the Olympia. Columbu won by half a point, one of the closest results in the history of the contest. Zane spent the next year training as a man possessed. Sadly, fate intervened to steal Zane's attempt at redemption. In 1977, Columbu competed in the inaugural World's Strongest Man competition, where he broke his leg in a freak accident. The two never faced each other again, and Zane went on to win the title from 1977 to 1979. Number 3. Mike Mentzer versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mike Mentzer and Arnold Schwarzenegger is perhaps the shortest rivalry, but undoubtedly one of the most explosive. The two men only met once in competition, at the infamous 1980 Mr. Olympia, where Arnold returned to bodybuilding after a 5-year hiatus. More than that, Arnold returned to the stage and shocked the sport by somehow winning the competition outright. Whether or not Arnold deserved to win his 7th Olympia in 1980, and there were plenty of people who thought he should not have, his abrupt reappearance ruffled multiple feathers. Enter Mike Mentzer. Heading into the 1980 Olympia, Mentzer was the expected favorite. The year prior, he had won the heavyweight division but lost the overall title to Frank Zane. 1980 was supposed to be his year, but Arnold's presence and his legendary mind games swept the crown away. Mentzer was enraged. During the press conference, Menzer attempted to physically attack Arnold following several derogatory comments by the Austrian Oak. Menzer was incensed that Arnold won. He retired from the sport and never competed again. Number 2. Lee Haney vs. Rich Gaspari vs. Lee Labrada. Lee Haney and his successor Dorian Yates helped advance bodybuilding into the proverbial mass monster era. Haney won the Mr. Olympia 8 times, Yates 6 times. Both men were challenged at various points in their tenure. Yates was pushed to the finish line at several points by Sean Ray. Haney, though, had both Rich Gaspari and Lee Labrada to contend with. Gaspari knew he couldn't match Haney when it came to mass. Instead, he set his focus on conditioning, and in doing so, changed the sport forever. In 1986, Gaspari competed at the Pro World Championship with striated glutes. Striations occur when body fat is so low that the muscle fibers are visible, and no one had brought such extraordinary conditioning to the stage before. Gaspari attempted to overthrow Haney with extreme leanness. While he never defeated Haney at the Olympia, he finished in second place 3 times from 1986 to 88. He ushered a new standard of presentation into the sport that continues today. But what about Lee Labrada? He overtook Gaspari as the heir apparent to Haney in 1989 and 1990. Like Gaspari, Labrada knew that conditioning rather than bulk was his key to defeating Haney. In 1989 and 1990, Labrada ran Haney extremely close to the finish line at the Olympia. How close? In 1990, Labrada was ahead of Haney at prejudging before losing at the night event. Even today, many fans believe that Labrada deserved an Olympia crown at either the 1989 or 1990 Olympia. Labrada himself saw it as the biggest disappointment of his career, saying in a 2019 interview, at the time, after the prejudging of that show, I was ahead by several points going into the night show. Then he defeated me by 2 or 3 points. It was a hard loss to swallow." Haney defeated not one, but 2 bodybuilding legends during his 8-year reign. The 3-way race notably affected the competition between Gaspari and Labrada. They traded titles across multiple bodybuilding shows in 1987 and 1988. At 7 different European shows in 1988, Gaspari won 4 contests and Labrada won 3. Even though neither defeated Haney head-to-head, both Gaspari and Labrada cemented their own world-class legacies in the sport. Number 1. Ronnie Coleman vs. Flex Wheeler. Bodybuilding has a strange way of disrupting the expectations of its fans. This is especially the case whenever a legend of the sport retires. When Arnold retired, everyone tipped Franco to become the next champion. Likewise, when Haney left, few predicted that Dorian Yates would be the one to take his place at the top. It is equally hard to convey the magnitude of Ronnie Coleman's 1998 Mr. Olympia victory. Although Coleman astonished fans with his level of conditioning on stage, much of the surprise was due to the fact that he had beaten Flex Wheeler to the crown. Wheeler is heralded as one of the best bodybuilders to never win an Olympia title. His contemporaries, including Coleman, widely regarded him as having the greatest genetics of his generation. When Yates retired, most assumed it would spark the beginning of the Wheeler era. However, fate intervened. Coleman and Wheeler had competed against one another prior to 1998 and developed something of a rapport. Wheeler had, perhaps unwisely, even given advice to Coleman on how to improve his presentation at multiple turns. Coleman used that advice to win it all in 1998. In the end, Coleman beat Wheeler by 3 points at the 1998 Olympia. He finished ahead of him again in 1999 and 2000, after which Wheeler stepped away from the sport for 2 years. Wheeler returned to the Olympia in 2002 and again in 2017 in classic physique, but he could not escape out from under Coleman's shadow. That's all for this video, folks. See you another time.